If you're feeling a little too comfortable, like modern life has lulled you into a sense of complacency, The Road by Cormac McCarthy is the wake up call you didn't know you needed. It's not just a book, it's an experience that strips you of all the small luxuries you take for granted and forces you to stare into the void. Welcome back to Mysterious Galaxies. I'm Todd, I've got my coffee here, and of course, my copy of The Road. So let's dive into this absolute powerhouse of a novel. Now, The Road is one of Cormac McCarthy's most well known works, and for good reason. Published in 2006, it earned the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction and solidified McCarthy's reputation as one of America's greatest authors. While Blood Meridian is my favorite, The Road is undeniably his most well known. It was selected for Oprah's Book Club, a surprising platform for such a bleak, introspective novel, but one that undoubtedly brought this haunting story to a wider audience. Set in a world obliterated by an unnamed catastrophe, The Road is a quintessential dystopian novel. It takes place in a lifeless landscape where ash blankets the earth, the sky is gray, and hope is all but extinct. At its core, it's a story about survival, but it's also about something much deeper. The fragile, unbreakable bond between a father and his son. However, if you're looking for a book with hope, one with a message that everything will be okay and we will persevere, this is not for you. This is about as bleak of a novel as you can find, and it's beautiful. The premise of The Road is deceptively simple. A father and his young son traverse a desolate post-apocalyptic landscape. Together, they navigate the ashes of a world obliterated by an unnamed catastrophe. McCarthy withholds the specifics. Was it war, climate disaster, a supervolcano, or something else entirely? Because that's not the point. What matters is the aftermath, the stark reality of survival when everything we understand about civilization has been erased. What we do know is that the earth is blanketed in ash, the air is toxic, and the sunlight barely filters through the perpetually gray sky. Nearly every living thing is dead. There is no plants, no animals, no birds in the air. The world is cold and silent. It's a graveyard that spans the globe. The survivors who remain have been reduced down to their barest instincts. Many have turned to cannibalism, forming brutal gangs and tribal hierarchies that hunt and terrorize anyone weaker than themselves. In this harrowing landscape, morality has been incinerated along with the trees, and the only rule is to survive at any cost. At the heart of the story are the father and son, unnamed to heighten their universality. They could be anyone. They are the everyman figure, stripped down to their roles and their bond. The father's singular goal is to keep his son alive, even as he himself is dying. His love for the boy is fierce, protective, and desperate. The son, on the other hand, he represents innocence and the fragile thread of humanity that hasn't yet been severed. The phrase carry the fire emerges as a central theme throughout the book. It's how the father describes their mission, not just to survive, but to hold on to some semblance of goodness in a world that has all but lost it. The fire represents hope, morality, and the faintest glimmer of a better future. Yet, as the story unfolds, it's the son, not the father, who truly embodies the fire. His innate kindness and empathy, even towards strangers, stand in stark contrast to the father's often ruthless pragmatism. Together they follow the road, a bleak, unending stretch of highway that serves as both a literal and metaphorical journey. They scavenge for food, avoid violent gangs, and push forward despite the crushing weight of their circumstances. The road itself becomes a symbol of endurance, a fragile connection to the idea that there's something worth striving for, even when all evidence suggests otherwise. This isn't a story about redemption or triumph. It's a meditation on survival, on the unbreakable bond between parent and child, and on what it means to hold on to humanity when the world has become inhuman. As bleak as it is, the father and son's journey is also profoundly moving. It's a testament to love and resilience in the face of inconceivable despair. Calling The Road good almost feels reductive. It's not just a book you read. It's a book you endure. A book that burrows into your consciousness and refuses to leave. It's a masterpiece, yes, but one that's as harrowing as it is brilliant. This is not a story you pick up for escapism or comfort. It's a raw, unflinching meditation on despair, survival, and the fragility of everything we take for granted. McCarthy's prose is unlike anything else. Stark and minimalistic, it evokes the sparse efficiency of Hemingway, but with a haunting, almost biblical resonance that's entirely McCarthy's own. There's no punctuation where you'd like it. Dialogue stripped of quotation marks, commas, are sparse, and the sentences come at you like hammer blows, short, declarative, merciless. It's a style that perfectly mirrors the bleakness of the world McCarthy has created. Every word feels deliberate, and every sentence carries the weight of a life or death struggle. The book's structure is another stroke of genius. Each paragraph feels like a standalone vignette, a brief glimpse into this dying world. The abundance of white space on the page gives the story a poetic rhythm, forcing you to slow down and absorb the full impact of each moment. Dialogue between the father and son is sparse but powerful, often no more than a few words exchanged at a time, and yet those few words say everything. It's a masterclass in economy of language. But let's not pretend The Road is flawless. For all of its brilliance, it's also deeply repetitive. The father and son, they starve, they scavenge, they encounter danger, and they move on, over and over again. It's an intentional choice, reflecting the monotony and hopelessness of their existence, but it can wear on the reader. The unrelenting bleakness, too, might feel like overkill for some. There's no levity, no respite, no sense of triumph or catharsis. The ending is another point of contention. Without spoiling anything, it veers into Deus Ex Machina territory. A moment of improbable salvation that feels almost out of step with the grim realism of everything that came before. Is it a cop-out? Or is it McCarthy's way of reminding us that even in the darkest times, hope has a way of crawling its way back in? Either interpretation has merit, and your reaction to it will depend on your tolerance for ambiguity. Ultimately, The Road isn't about being good or bad in the traditional sense. It's a book that challenges you, unsettles you, and forces you to confront the darkest parts of human nature. It's a work of art, but like the world it depicts, it's not one that offers easy answers or clean resolutions. Why should you willingly immerse yourself in a story this unrelentingly dark? Because The Road isn't just a story about the end of the world. It's a story about what it means to be human when humanity itself is at its breaking point. It forces you to confront the question, what would you hold on to if everything you knew, everything you relied on, was gone? McCarthy has an unparalleled ability to make you appreciate the smallest, simplest things in life. A roof over your head, a warm blanket, a single meal, a loving hand to hold. In the world of The Road, these things are not just luxuries, they're miracles. The novel strips existence down to its most primal elements, and in doing so, it magnifies the significance of the everyday. It's a book that lingers in your mind long after you've finished, making you notice the warmth of the sun on your face, the weight of a well-stocked pantry, and the comfort of knowing that for now, the world hasn't fallen apart. If you're a fan of dystopian fiction, crippling depression, or McCarthy's other works, this is essential reading. But even if you're new to McCarthy, The Road is a powerful starting point. It's a novel that transcends genre, resonating with readers who are willing to face its unflinching portrayal of despair and endurance. But again, forewarning, this is not for the faint of heart. It is extremely disturbing and violent. There's cannibalism, infanticide, and a bunch of other really depressing shit. I want to take a second and read one of the scariest passages in the book, because it gives you a glimpse of what I'm talking about. He started down the rough wooden steps. He ducked his head, and then flicked the lighter and swung the flame out over the darkness like an offering. Coldness and damp. An ungodly stench. The boy clutched at his coat. He could see part of a stone wall. Clay floor. An old mattress darkly stained. He crouched and stepped down again and held out the light. Huddled against the back wall were naked people, male and female, all trying to hide, shielding their faces with their hands. On the mattress lay a man with his legs gone to the hip, and the stumps of them blackened and burnt. The smell was hideous. This book is a harrowing journey, but it's also an important one. In an era where crises seem to loom larger every day, The Road feels more relevant than ever. It reminds us of the fragility of our world and the resilience we carry within us. It's not an easy read, but it's a necessary one. It's not just about the end of the world. It's about the fire we carry within and the reasons we keep going. And even when the road ahead is nothing but ash. Ultimately, the road is about survival, not just physical survival, but the survival of hope, love, and morality in a world that seems determined to snuff them out. It's about the relationship between father and son and the meaning we find in each other when all else is lost. This is not an easy read, and it's not for everyone. But if you're up for it, the road will challenge you, unsettle you, and maybe even change you. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, your family, and even your enemies. Just not any cannibals, because I like having my limbs intact. And of course, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, because every subscriber inches me one step closer to taking over the galaxies. Until next time, take care, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next one.